Okay. Two. Uh, 3 minutes. Let's see. Okay, the 410. Let's see, one of the WMA channels says that with the dual wield, you can block and attack simultaneously, whereas with a solo sword, one weapon, you can't. Now, I don't necessarily agree with that. In Western style, yes, but in the more eastward systems, no. So I would say that's not a universal statement. Again, within the Western style approach, yes, but not within every single system. So, of European fencing. So let's let's have a look here. Right, where are we? There we go. It's going to be about 6, yeah. So, with a bow and wear, a peasant knife, or a short sword, I prefer the word short sword, really. So, bow and wear, short sword, hanger, all that kind of family of short swords. Okay. Because of the short sword size, if you have your weapon hand backwards, you can do this with dagger as well. A Spider-Wide dagger in the Cali system, but you can also do it with Western HEMA weapons of similar shape and WMA weapons of similar design. You have the longer weapon in the rear hand, like a cross in Western boxing. So that way the length kind of compensates, so you're not getting confused between short and long. Yeah. Just again, concept. Like that, and scissors and gun thing. But I would say anything after watching the DSAC video on AHF, one of them. The Western style, again, I'm not saying it's it's not for me. With the very, that kind of very static kind of thing. So I think if I'd offer any advice for the family of short swords within historical WMA systems, is maybe more aliveness in my personal view, not in everyone's, that's fine. Maybe it would help definitely people that move in this more style, this more dynamic style rather than static. Again, I'm not knocking it, but I'm just saying if people's body type or personality style gravitates towards a more dynamic, or if we want to say Eastern way, then keep it fluid. Now again, you see some Dussac fighters do this, or Dussac fighters, not all. So go to a more European art of cross-cutting. You can do it with a solo weapon. You don't need to dual wield. You can attack and defend with a double weapon at a simultaneous point in time, but you don't need two weapons. You can have one. So attack and defense might simply be, here's a Western example in longsword and one-handed sword. A Western example is a disarm, a hand shot, right? So when you've done a hand shot, right, if it's successful, you've actually done a disarm and an attack at the same time. So you've done a defense and an attack simultaneously. The Kung Fu, the Chinese Kung Fu will call that Wu Wei, perhaps. Japanese will call it Mushin. Central Europe call it cross-cutting, right? And it doesn't matter what you call it. But it seems that in Western style that there's this confusion where you can't do a simultaneous attack defense with a solo weapon, and I don't agree. I don't think that's correct or true. I think you can. I think it requires a shift in attitude and mindset and approach, but I don't think it's impossible. I think that's a myth. Again, this isn't exclusive to Eastern or Central European weapons. It can be done Western style. It can be done with a hanger, a tuck, a short sword, anything in that family of short sword blades, right, that exist in Western style, not only other systems. Okay, so it can be done. It's a kind of a mindset problem or an attitude difficulty, maybe, right? Or what some people in the business world call a self-limiting belief, right? And I think it doesn't have to be. Yeah, the mindset can change if it is so desired. So a hand shot, yeah, is an attack and a defensible movement because if it's successful and it cuts the nerve or the whatever in the simulation thing. What's the word? Inspiring is a make-believe concept. So if you say hit the glove to simulate a hand cut or a disarm, then again that's an attack and defensible movement. You can also do a point, but it's much more difficult. It can be done, yeah. But again, even with the point or even with the false edge, yeah, It doesn't have to be a front edge thing, but regardless of false edge or a point stab to the hand or forearm or wrist or elbow joint, right? It is an attack and a defense in one movement because you have disarmed and attacked in one go. Okay, so again, this is more, in my view, this is more the forte of non-Western systems like Asian and Central / East, Northeast European, etc. Right? But again, it can be done in Western style, and as I say, you see it probably most commonly in the two-handed sword. By which I don't mean only longsword, okay, because there is two-handed backsword, Swiss sabre, two-handed falchion, things that we haven't even heard or discovered yet that are two-handed Western swords. So I don't only mean longsword, a hand and a half, for example, but we can go on, and then there's the problem of language and how people interpret that. So that's another thing. But attack and defend in one movement, angle 1, angle 2, horizontal, reverse horizontal, it doesn't matter. And then true edge, false, yeah, or point. But anywhere along here, just like Wing Chun's Fac Sao, right? Just get anywhere that you can get. It's not this ultra specific thing because it won't be in sparring because of the nature of the chaos of a sparring scenario. Just again, I gravitate more because of my cardio towards that system rather than a one-off power shot. Yeah, I gravitate more, so maybe that's my bias, and other people's bias is more the sort of rigid style. And I'm not criticising either one, they're both fantastic at what they do. I'm just offering a change in mindset for people that might struggle with that very formal, rigid style. So, also it's harder to see. So in the Cali system, I mean, this is a wooden tanto, okay, so fair enough, it's not Filipino, but we use the same principles, right? You can, because the element of surprise is very powerful, because if someone knows the movement, then they can block it, right, or have a better chance of blocking it. They don't know how to block it if they don't know the thing exists, so you can be in here, you see, and that looks like a cross or I don't know, a pack of sweets, right? And you can be there. So you, or even here, you know, just like Aijutsu, yes. So you can do here or here. Yeah. You kind of can hide even along your body. You know, again, looks like whatever, scratching your leg and then. Yeah, because harder to block when you don't know. So how that would incorporate into sparring, I'm not exactly sure at this point, but hiding is an element of surprise, very powerful. And also attack and defense with a solo weapon. And again, it doesn't have to be a far away cut, it can also be a cover. So again, longsword does this the best in terms of people being able to see it, okay, because the popularity in the fashion, it's more to do with popularity and fashion, it's to do with that system being the best system. I'm not saying it's a wrong system, I'm just saying it's a shame that other systems are left out because of that fashion, in my view. So, so if you have long sword, let's just pretend, I know it's very short bladed, but just bear with me. So you have the long sword and you might, the essence of that system is to have the hand sort of high, then let gravity drop the tip so that the gravity is sort of doing the attacking or helping you with the movement, the gravity of the tip, which makes sense in a way, although it can stress your joints, in my opinion. So when the You see, hands high to cover, right? So the essence of the longsword system, it would seem, the way it's done that I've seen it, okay, there may be secret schools that I've never seen, but the way I've seen it done and all the observations I've seen of it are hands that kind of, they can be here or here, but they kind of end up crashing and clashing with this high up. So the essence of that system is a sort of clash here, where a sort of bind, if you want, of hands and hilt. Okay, so the essence of that system ends up in this sort of bind or clash of hands. Okay, with a high positioning movement, a high positioning here. So that's the essence of that system. It's a sort of clash of hands with a high positioning. Okay, the essence of Ludo is the turn and the pull and the turn. So entry, the pull and the turn, which favours stronger people in my view, which is a bit of a biased rule set, but that's the essence of Ludo, is a sort of a pull and a turn. Yeah, those two things, pull and turn. Yeah, so it might be Oseta, it might be the turn, but the essence of that, the throwing moves of Ludo, the essence is a pull and turn. The essence of Kumite Karate is in and out, kind of just like Western fencing with the lunge, a sort of in and out Gyakuzuki, and then secondarily Kazamazuki, right? So the essence is a sort of reverse punch left and right, but it's a sort of in and out, okay? Quite a linear. Yes, there are angular Yurekins, but the general flavour of that system is sort of in and out Gyakuzuki, also aka, and then Kazamazuki. And then tertiary is an angular Yurekin or back fist. But the primary way is a sort of in and out footwork with a Gyakuzuki primarily, secondarily a Kazamazuki jab. So that's the essence of those systems. Longsword is the high clash with the hands. Ludo is either a pull or a turn. Yeah, but an entry. These all rely on entries. The high clash of hands in longsword is an entry. The turn / pull in Ludo is an entry. The Kazamazuki and Gyakuzuki with the in and out footwork is an entry. So these are all entries. Even Western boxing, these shuffle steps with covering, these are entries. Okay, or the duck style for shorter power people. These are all entries. So each system has its way of entry and guard breaking, yeah, or defense breaking. And the smart thing to do is how to break the guard or defense without being counter shot, because if you get countered attack, then that's not good because you lose the match. So you definitely have to be aware of that. So you have to go smart. So yeah, each system has its own essence, but the common umbrella, the common bubble that sort of puts them all in the same bracket roughly is entries and overcoming counterattacks. Really, yeah, it's just the difference or the variation on the external service that is visible. The differences are just different rule sets or different mindsets, but they are all ways of how to gain entry to an attack without being counter-attacked yourself. So again, longsword probably is the best Western example of Mushin, right? Of attack, defense, in one movement. So it might, the high hand stab thrust is also the same principle. Is here so that I am covered even if and I'm not anywhere near expert at longsword, but I am just making this point from what I have learned from observing it, is that you're covered. So if that, it might be a double block, yeah, a draw, a stalemate, or a win, but whatever it is, you're covered. So whether you get a stalemate or whether you get the point, you're still covered. Yeah. So now rapier also does this a little bit with the interceptions. So the thrust in rapier is, you can almost say, like an angle. So you can, again, you can attack and defend in one movement. So when you do the rapier stab, straight stab, you can actually, by displacing that, you can move it other way. And I know it's too academic and it works like that in sparring, but you can, and you can use your rikasso or habaki in Japanese, rikasso in Western, the strong part here, right, near the hilt, right. The problem with it is, the good thing is it's strong. The problem is it gives you a much shorter range, distance range, which makes you more in the danger area distance-wise. But these are all the same principles of attack and defense and one movement. So rapier is, with the straight stab, is you can come in at a very slight angle and displace their weapon whilst doing the attack in one movement. So you're displacing and attacking in one movement. Yeah. So it's more subtle than a double sword dual wield or a shield and sword. It's more subtle because you don't, you can afford to do a bit more movement if you have multiple weapons or multiple objects. You can be more wide in the movements and still be covered. Whereas with a solo weapon, you have to be more subtle a bit. Yeah, you have to keep tighter with the, but you can still, as I say, especially through bending this wrist like a palm heel, almost like a Western palm heel or a Western taisha, you can displace and attack in one movement. This is done in small sword foiled Western fencing, or what people call modern Western fencing, sports style. But it's done in lots of systems, right? Is you can displace and attack in one movement, right? But you see quite semi-common examples to be found in rapier. So displace and straight stab in one movement, yeah. So it's just about angles and sort of a bit of pressure with the wrist, yeah. So it's yeah. What would we say? It seems to be less common, but it does exist in Western style. Maybe it's more common with the straight stab than a cut style attack. So maybe in Western style, it's more that you can cover yourself. Maybe because the arm's straight, and as I say, if it comes in at a slight angle, you're actually closing like a pat sow or a bridging punch. You're actually sort of covering and attacking in the same movement. So maybe it's more common with the straight stab, with the straight lunge, than it would be with a cut style maneuver. But if you look to Dusak, Tesak, and again the general family of Western style short swords within WMA, you will find attack and defense within cut work, not just stab work. Yeah. It just seems to be either forgotten about or less common. But I think if you look at certain old sources, possibly Dark Age, the sword siaks as well, the lang sacks, you'll find this definitely. Like, it's universal. Again, why it's less common or less known about in Western style, I don't know, but it's a very universal principle. So there's just a sort of mindset, as I say, probably the Italio-Franco style, the French-Italian, and then maybe other countries, but primarily the Franco-Italian style of parry and riposte, yeah, which then caught on slightly in England and other countries, but started kind of primarily in those countries. That system is very valuable, but it's, I suppose, much slower, and I don't know, it's just a not one size fits all. It might not work for everyone. The mindset might be confusing. I'm trying to improve myself on that style, believe it or not, but it is a difficult thing if you're more a dynamic style. If you're more that style, then the parry riposte is. But it's very valuable to learn both. Very valuable, because then you have a big bag of tricks, so to say, that's doing sparring well. So yeah, maybe the advantage, I would say, to Western style, having had criticism of it, maybe the advantage is that when you are sort of, again, it's much slower and much more rigid, but I suppose you are quite covered, because you're always, what does Angelo call it, middle guard or centre guard, outside, inside, all these things, yeah. You are quite covered, but it's much slower speed-wise, but also that's not a problem. That does not be a problem, but it's much less dynamic. It's not holistic. It's not holistic. It's isolatory. So it isolates the attack and the defense, or the attacks and the blocks are separate in Western style, whereas they're unified in non-Western, in some systems, not all. Yeah, so there's a way to, for example, in Dusak, you might be here, maybe, okay, or here with this false edge / round stab. Okay, round stabs are different to straight stabs. Work good with curve blades. So you might sort of feign a round stab, yeah, that curve, but then you cut their hand out. When you cut under, again, whether it works or not, even if they block that bind, then your hands are in. So with a short sword, whether Eastern or Western, you can, again, because of the shorter length, you can, if you're smart about it, a split second after, so the beat would be like da-da. It wouldn't be 1, 2, it would be like 1.5 or 1.25. So it's almost simultaneous. As long as you cover behind the blade, you can semi-simultaneous crash in. You watch this in certain DSAC videos of sparring, so you can, because the length is short, especially if you have the weapon hand backwards, you can compensate, whereas here it's quite hard to reach with your offhand, but if you do this, it's much easier, right? But again, you have to be, you wouldn't just do that, you get a hand shot, yeah, unless you have gauntlets on. So you have to cover it behind, your hand. The advantage also of having the weapon hand in the rear arm is power, obviously. It's shorter range, that's the disadvantage side, but lots of power, yeah, and counterbalanced as well, kind of, because the opposite hand to foot counterbalances itself, yeah, whereas with that, it kind of doesn't, so you end up more side on like the horse stance. So you can crash in and what's the word? Bind, say, the shorter length offers you, as long as you cover, yeah, it has to be behind here. Yeah, again, you wouldn't just put that out, that's daft, right? Unarmored, with it, unarmored examples, again, a gauntlet would be separate, a separate case, a special case, but unarmored would be try and cover it, unless maybe you wrap a cloak around your hand or a cloth or something, a very thick, maybe a ripped off piece of gambeson or something, maybe something like that. But as I say, for unarmored, always hide it behind the hilt or the blade. So it's 1-2, but it's almost, you can almost come in, as I say, as long as you're behind, you can almost come in at the same time when you crash in. And then this offers grappling and hitting forearm shots. Yeah, so you can like grab like lopsow grab, so you can grab and just start working away, right? Because another lacking feature seems to be no offhand shots, or which, so again with a short blade, it works very good. So you can start throwing in your shots here. You can even combine them, like slap, cut, like a gun thing, but it doesn't matter. You can just combine them, 1-2, 1-2. But again, it's not a one size fits all. It's not one movement. It's just a mindset. So you can, grab the empty hand and cover. So in summary, you can attack and defend in one movement within the bounds of the Western style fencing, historical fencing. So it is doable. It just seems to have been forgotten about or left by the wayside for a reason. Who knows what reason? Maybe the manuals got destroyed or buried in soil, or I don't know. Yeah, but it can be done. It's not like anti-Western style, exotic move that can only be done within, katana. I mean, it's not true. It can be absolutely done with a Western style blade. It's just, as I say, seems to have had a case of amnesia for some reason. So again, you can attack and defend semi-simultaneously with a short sword, because the live hand, as long as it's covered, can come in like a split second after. So you can attack and defend one, yeah, as long as it's covered. And all those as well, backhand or live hand, whatever. Sorry, offhand, yeah. The back arm or front arm, it doesn't really matter, but you're covered, but you can do it just like a rapier and dagger. Again, it just seems to, Western style seems to have forgot you can do this with a solo weapon. It doesn't have to be dual wield. It can be, but it doesn't have to be. So it's a sort of rigid rule that I'm not really understanding. The other advantage to the simultaneous way with one weapon, you can again use it offhand. So it doesn't have to just be the weapon hand. You can use your offhand, but in things where the cutting ability is quite limited. I know rapiers can cut. I get that, and I'm not dismissing it. They can cut, but in a scimitar or that kind of broad, whether it's a straight chopper or a curve, the sort of really stocky, like a single-edged Viking blade, is generally going to cut with a level of power that is not going to happen with a rapier cut or a you know, anything in that family, the sort of skinny kind of stab-centric blades, it's not going to really, I would say so. So the offhand can be used. You watch the guy who wrote the book on rapier very recently in the HEMA community. You watch him, the rapier expert, and he can use. So you can, if you have, say, a glove like a leather glove, it doesn't have to be metal armor. So you could say unarmored can happen with this example. A small sword or foil or epee or whatever, you can, because of it doesn't have cutting capacity, you can. But as I say, the edges of the rapier still would be mentally away. You'd have to have like leather glove or a Gambison style glove, you know, a cut resistant. You wouldn't just do it with your hand because it wouldn't. With a rapier or even a transition style rapier where it's halfway a sapier. A sapier is a hybrid small sword rapier. It would still have a slight edge and it would still graze. So wrapping, if there's nothing, wrapping the cloth around would be an example. But because it's not a cutting powerhouse, you can grab it. So grab and stab in one with small sword, rapier, foil, epee, etc., and sapier, hybrid rapier, or halfway between the small sword and rapier, a sapier. So, grab and attack. But don't get stabbed in the arm or the extremity, because bad idea, obviously. So don't just sort of offer it, because it'd be, especially someone who is very high level on that straight bone style. It's harder to do it with that than it would be that, but still a bad idea. So keep it hidden again, just like in Cali, keep it covered with the weapon. So, but as long as you are here, you can, and in raid, because there's the small percentage cutting ability, you can actually get points of cutting as well. So you could be again cover with the hilt or the blade. You cover and you can grab with the offhand, and then you can cut, or here you can, or stab, but you can employ that, because it's not really going to cut in the way a big stocky style hitting sword would cut. It's not going to remove your hand away. So you can, if you're smart about it, you can cover and grab and you can also pinch the back of single edge blades where the flat back, what I call a western flat back or a slap back, you can, but it's more hard to do. You can do it, but in the speed of sparring, probably not practicable. So just suppose an advice to both parties, to the dynamic style or the sort of hyperactive style. With this, maybe learn to calm down and do more parry riposte. Again, learn both, but it's difficult. But try and retrain your brain so that you can be comfortable with both. And for the more rigid, traditional Western style people, you can learn to add some small percentage of aliveness to it. Again, it is hard to see if you are here constantly. And the good thing about a short blade versus a long sword is you can redirect it quite quickly. Quite quickly. Whereas the longer one will take more energy to speed up. It'll take a longer time span to speed up the flow of that weapon. Whereas with the short one, it's immediately kind of there, right? So it's hard a person to see if it's, there. And then you can hide behind this. You can hide this punch or this palm slap or this strike. You can hide it behind this, you see. So now you've got two weapons. You can be here, and you can bind, and then start working away there. So just like Kosen Judo versus stand-up judo or regular judo, the Ludo, rather, the rule set will dictate a lot. So if you have a rule set that rewards strength and punishes technique, just for a made-up example, then the strength or the power style will win because the rule set dictates what happens. If you had a rule set that left-handers get 1 point and right-handers get 9, then the right-handers going to do much better, right? So rule set dictates a lot. So we might be looking at a rule set being invented that is maybe more neutral, perhaps, that gives more of a fair balance towards maybe rigid style, chaos style, or power style and technique style if we're talking about Ludo and throws, yeah. But whatever system we're talking about, a more neutral, that gives a fair balance towards a technique fighter over a power fighter, or rigid style over crazy style, right? So yeah, maybe rule set invention would be something to think on. So I think that's it for now, probably. But swapping hands is also a thing, but I think we've talked about that in other things. And of course, it takes a second or two in which you can be attacked. So I do understand why people freeze up and wouldn't do that. So yeah. So a good way is false edge cut into web hand. That is a false edge. Angle 3, yeah, diagonal rising with the reverse, like the false edge, so like a scratch or a rake into the web of the hand. And then angle 1 then. Yeah. And then you can leave a bit, so if you hold the pommel or the kashira, the pommel, kashira, whatever Western or Japanese name you want to use, I don't mind. But if you leave a bit of leeway, then you can put that to the hand, then it can be done the other way, like a circle as well, but it doesn't matter. Here. Oh, here. Yeah. It can even be done two-handed and then let go a second afterwards. Just come up with your own method. It's just about swapping. Final point is along with the short sword or machete, long cut versus a short cut. So it can be, you can kind of come out, hitting the forearm wrist, and it can come out or it can come short if you're closed down and you don't have this long movement ability because of being closed down. You can go for a short chop because you're not going to have the space. So it's environmental really. If you're in a spatial environment that allows for the long cut, then you can stretch out and go longer. Even with the short, so you can go a bit longer. Yeah. But if you don't, then you can do a short chop. Because of being closed down, you can go backhand or angle one. Yeah. But it's a defensive kind of on the shoulder or arm if the closed down is quite tight, then it can be in the tricep and here, kind of bicep, tricep, or shoulder, or down. It's just a short chop, and then following up with forearm strike and pommel, kind of, kind of blitzing kind of thing. So yeah, it's not limited to a short cut, short strike. Yeah. Can be that, but it's not a limiting factor for people that want a more longer style. Given the space, if the space isn't available, it's not really practicable. Given the space, you can cut like that. It will be a slower move though, because the distance requires more time to achieve the movement. So it will be slower, but you can do it. You can also go horizontal, angle 5, I think, instead of angle 1. You can go there. So you might feign like a high diagonal, but then go for a central horizontal cut. So it's like a kind of thing, but it doesn't matter. It happens to be there, and it's a little kind of thing. Yeah. But just choose your style really. So yeah, hand swap could be accompanied by stop or a kick if you have the range. So, or even a feint. Yeah, so feint the kick. It doesn't have to be a successful, but it can be. I don't know. Hand swap. Probably best to be in range, but if you are feinting a very realistic bluff, yeah, a fake attack, a feint attack with this, then you can kick. So that might offer a hand swap, but keep them low. Other than that, it would have to be like throwing something, to in order to swap. There has to be a cover in that change. There has to be a cover, whether that's a stomp kick or a throw and a slipper. There has to be a sort of a distraction device. otherwise the person will see you do that, so it has to be a distraction. And this, again, this can be good, because it's harder to see when it's constantly. That can be an idea. For longer blades, for long blades versus short blades, I don't know. But coming up with a concept to distract and then hand swap. Yeah, and then keep it surprised, and so keep the same hand for, say, 2/3 of the time, or 70%, 80%. For the vast majority of the time, keep the same hand, and then maybe a small fraction at the end, then you swap, because you've got that surprise element that'll throw them off. You need something to throw them off, whether it's surprise or throwing, slipper, or a stomp kick, or clap hands. Or a level change, you might jump up and down, but you need some kind of psychological shock factor so that they are focusing on the the weirdness of the distraction rather than you changing hands, because then they'll block. You always want that surprise factor, like Sun Tzu would mention in the military manual. So yeah. And being dynamic so that things don't get, the opponent doesn't get wise to it. Be dynamic, so constantly changing the combination and the order. So you might go left, right, then you might go right, left, then you might go left, right, left, or right, left, right, or angle to the right-handed side, or angle to the left-handed side, or infinite combinations. Yeah. So keep it keep the creative mindset constant, otherwise they will learn to block. So keep it constantly, right to left, left to right, then everything in between, what else could I say? Book. It's right. So the biggest thing, again, it's not what you do; it's the way you do it. So it's for Christian people, it will be teaching a man to fish versus giving one fish per day. So it's sort of the universal method behind it, which can be applied to anything. So it's probably speaking confidence or public speaking confidence applied to different things would be one. Then there we go. Number one, confidence, voice projection. Then two would be what's the word? I don't know, but it's what could I do? Voice, oh yeah, book reviews, and it seems to be things that normal people do, but I'm happy to do on YT, on this account channel. Book review and giveaways and blah blah blahs and things that normal people seem to do. Again, I haven't really had a donation on the Patreon. I suppose it's I need to learn how to work it, but I certainly want to help community with that. I would have to build myself to a position of being able to, because if I'm not, position to, then it's not really going to be possible. So the number one thing would be confidence, voice projection, and then I can do various things with that ability, book reviews and giveaways and what's the word? Finance donations, but in order to help get into a position where community can be supported, right? But that's to start with solo and then branch out into various things. Okay, so yeah, I'm just talking about bits and bobs. Isn't AHF specific? It's for the first, say, 40-50 minutes. It was. This is just general YT channel information regarding a sort of what would you call online job. And I suppose all these videos would, whether this channel or the other channels that exist that I've done, would count as working for free, I would guess. But again, it's stage one would be to get into a paid position on this non-physical job, and then stage two is to help community. But these are very long term sort of, what do they say? Rome wasn't built in a day, so it will take a short while to achieve. It will just happen sort of overnight, but that is kind of one of the ultimate goals there. Yeah. So if you want to see the AHF part, it starts about 4 minutes in and then lasts till about 50 minutes, 45 minutes, something like that. So yeah, really all, I suppose you could say, allegedly there have been people in the past have done this within martial arts community. You can trade knowledge with other systems and other stylists. So, you might be a striker and you can give free lessons for striking to grappling people, and they give you free lessons. I'm just giving an example. Or you might be a stand-up person, they might be a groundwork person, so you give them lessons on stand, they give you lessons on. So trading knowledge and barter almost. So that's something that would interest, definitely would be of a large interest. And the other would be, I suppose, just a personal interest would be no-gi catch wrestling. Particularly the ground elements and the niwaza elements of the no-gi catch technique list or technique bubble, the no-gi catch methods, CACC, catches, catch, no-gi grips and no-gi submissions, so that really anything that's right-brained alternative, very interesting, but also so what we call system links that I have drawn on spidergrams at various points through recording videos. You can link in HEMA with modern martial arts, and the link would be it's a historical Western system, historical Western martial art. So it's a kind of counts as unarmed HEMA or unarmed HWMA. So you can link the sort of historical arts and the modern martial arts with that thing that catch sort of sits a little bit in the middle. It's a little bit in the modern martial arts MMA sort of bracket, and then it's also a lot actually in the history tradition, which modern martial arts absolutely lacks. In my view, is soul, culture, tradition, history. It's very sort of within the brackets of Western materialism, which seems a shame because all historical martial arts, for the most part, have had a soul component. So it's a kind of seems lacking 50% of its ability. Catch wrestling fits both modern martial arts and traditional in a way because and HEMA. So the modern martial arts people could do it, the HEMA people can do it because it's unarmed HEMA in a way, or unarmed WMA. And even the fencing people, historical fencing people, could do it because it comes under the bracket of HEMA, albeit unarmed HEMA. So it's kind of, it fits the weapons HEMA, unarmed HEMA, and because what links it, is the HEMA aspect that is historical Western martial art. So it can, and then there's no-gi people and BJJ people, so it links several people. It can link the BJJ people through no-gi and groundwork. It can link the modern martial arts people through like MMA or Western wrestling. Okay, that was a wasp. Never mind. Time scale is 183, so that's fine. Yeah. So Waspy podcast here. Just do whatever you're doing, okay, whether it's kickboxing, TKD, or kickboxing, TKD, Western boxing, like, what's the common link there? Punches, right? So just find one move that links all the systems, and then you can do various systems through that linking factor. Oh, heck. God damn it. Oh. Sorry, Spider. Wasps have gone out the window, so no one needs to worry. 106 plus a bit more. So yeah, let's try and focus on that since the wasp has gone out the window. So find the linking factor. So TKD in Western boxing and kickboxing would be a punch, so you could link it that way. Just find one thing and then you can link it through that way. That'll be it for now, really, because I don't want to go on when the brain can't think of ideas. But the idea for another podcast will be MIs, mini infinities, and applied to gladius and long sacks or sword sacks and other weapons, but Japanese sword as well. Small variation, but within that, like lots of miniature, very subtle variations instead of like one big variation, like lots of subtle, like different hilt types, even though the blade shape's the same size, or a mains gladius, for example, even though it would have slightly angular sort of bowed, some of them can have more curved because they're based on an ancient Greek sort of xiphos. So it's quite a wide stocky with a curved blade. So it's in the bracket of sort of straight swords and curved swords, kind of, because contrary to popular understanding, single-edged and curved don't have to be synonymous. They become semi-synonymous, but they don't have to be. So mains gladius can sometimes fit the classification of curved sword, even though it's the straight central spine is straight sword. So it's a kind of both. It can fit in both. Another idea quickly before we go will be single-edged gladius. These are just like fantasy blades or self-concepts. Single-edged gladius, single-edged longsword, and reverse false edge, which I've talked about before. So the false edge being at the front, so it might be like a Kriegsmesser, so it might be curved and it might have the hatchet point, but then the front 1/3 of the top, the front 1/3 is sharp, and then the rest is like a flat back, a slap back, but the sword back will be at the front, so like a reverse flat back. So 1/3 at the top, and then the spine will be sharp, so it'd be a reverse bladed sword, what I call a reverse false edge. So I kind of come up with that as well as the flintlock paintball, cutlass, naval style sparring. I don't know. I'll save it for another thing, but those are all things to think on. Where are we? 110 and a bit more, so probably, yeah, it's just single edge gladius, single edge longsword, paintball, flintlock, and reverse false edge. Yeah, and millions of other ideas, but we'll keep with those basic core for now. Yeah, that'll be that for now. So thank you.